If you've never had the opportunity to go and experience the Grand Canyon, well, don't despair, because here in the natural state, just south of Jasper, is Arkansas's Grand Canyon. Arkansas's Grand Canyon is nestled in the so-called Boston Mountains along Scenic 7 Byway near Jasper with an average elevation of 2,300 feet.
And they're called the Boston Mountains, I've heard anyway, that when the covered wagons came, Boston was a term for anything magnificent or fine. And when they were down in this lower country, they looked up here and they said, gee, aren't those Boston Mountains up there? Meaning really big mountains. And it just sort of stuck. So the canyon itself here is about 40 miles wide. The Little Buffalo River comes out between the first two pieces of land you can see out there, sort of the different shadows you can tell. Jasper's right down there. The farther mountain is Mount Gaither that goes over toward Harrison, and the Big Buffalo runs between Gaither and Sherman, which is the middle mountain. And then the two rivers run out here all the way over to this Boat Mountain group over here and join right about there. And then they go on down here to Hasty, and over there's a place or two where you can see the bluffs above the river, but for the most part, the river is several hundred feet further down in the ground than you can see. So it's kind of invisible. On the sign when I made it, I put that it's hidden there. Lost in this canyon are the finest, and people will come in and say, what do you mean lost? Well, you can't see it, you know. You just have to assume it's there. The tower we built in 76, because a neighbor had a business here for a little while, and he bought a big water tank somewhere and put a little self-built tower up on it, and people really loved it. So I had to build one to compete, and I built a bigger and a better one, and it's kind of worrisome. I'm even worried about it yet because, you know, it's a bit of a liability to do it, but I've always carried insurance on it, and I maintain it. But one of these years, we'll have to give up on the tower probably. But people, I don't know, I'd say probably millions of people have climbed up that tower. Wow. It's hard for a family to come through with children to resist getting out of the car and doing something fun like that. And it's actually a better view up there.
Originally from Michigan, George Albert wound up here owning the Scenic Point gift shop and observation tower by taking a wrong turn on the road back during the mid-1970s.
It was early March, and when we got up into this country, it was very varied, and my wife and I had always wanted to live in mountains because in southern Michigan, where we came from, the only time you would think there was a mountain was when a giant storm would come from the west, and you'd look up at that bank and you'd think, wouldn't it be wonderful if there were mountains in Michigan, but there aren't. So when I saw this, we'd already been to North Carolina and all the way down the Blue Ridge, and I thought, this is interesting. So I stopped in Jasper, ended up spending about 3 days here, and bought some land out by Ponca. And
they had a bathroom.
Of course, in those days, 74 going west was dirt, and so it was really way off by itself. I had a road made into the property which was too steep to go up and down. And so we ended up coming over here, and I always liked it over here because of this view. I think it was sort of something in my heart that I knew it when I saw it, kind of like you might know your wife when you see her for the first time. And I did. I knew my wife that way. So I went on to Minnesota and bought a little farm up there, and then brought my wife and children on, and they loved it here. And up there, it was middle of April, and the lake on the farm was frozen, and it was not far from Fargo, North Dakota. And my wife looked around, she said, I'm not living here. Only twice in my life she's overruled me, but that was one, and she was right. So we came back here, and we've been here ever since.
So on a good clear day, how far can one see from up here?
40 miles.
Yeah.
And the lights of Branson are starting to show up now just off the end of Gaither. And of course Harrison lays right straight out that way. And you can see into southern Missouri here. They stop the train in Silver Dollar City and they point up here and they say those are the Boston Mountains in Arkansas. So we look back and forth to each other.
Just a couple miles or so farther south down Scenic 7 Byway is the Cliff House Inn and Restaurant, offering lodging and dining with spectacular views of Arkansas's Grand Canyon. So what do tourists think of Arkansas's Grand Canyon?
I love it. It's absolutely breathtaking. I could live here in a heartbeat. First time I've ever been to Arkansas. We're heading down to go diamond mining, the Crater Diamond Mines, and tonight we're planning on staying at Hot Springs.
Arkansas has an awfully lot of scenic, very scenic and beautiful landscaping. It's nice. And we're glad that we made this part of Arkansas.
Have you seen the real Grand Canyon by any chance?
Yes, we did last summer.
Yeah. This Grand Canyon is a little greener.
It sure is. Noticeably greener. And it's not, well, like I say, we went in June when it was, you know, purposely to get ahead of the heat, which we did. But quite a contrast in scenery. So, and Colorado, of course, we like Colorado. But the Grand Canyon, you have to see it to believe it. But there's, you don't have to be a bit ashamed of what
this
you have
is
here.
Not too shabby here, though.
No, it's not. Not at all. Yeah, we like it.
After floating just about every other stream there is to float in the natural state, finally, on this particular outing, we got around to doing a float trip on the ever-popular Mulberry in northwest Arkansas. Actually, we were invited to float the Mulberry by the girl in the kayak ahead of me, Courtney King Doudna, who's a photographer and outdoor rec specialist, and by her husband Ben, who came along to do a little kayak float fishing.
Well, generally I've had a little bit more luck with the water being a little bit lower. I kind of like to come out here when you're dragging, like at 1.5 or even lower than that usually, but today I think we'll catch some. I think the river's at what, 2.7, and kind of flowing a little bit good, but I like to use rod and reel, spinning rod and a little bait caster here, and today I'm fishing with a little hair jig with a baby brush hog for a trailer. Kind of mimics a crawfish. And on my spinning rod I'm fishing with a stand-up jig head and a centipede there. Some people call it a French fry, other people call it a centipede with a stand-up jig head called a spot remover. It's I've caught some 5-pounders, 5-pound largemouth, some pretty good smallmouth out of the river with that rig right there several times. And that's about the gist of it. I'm mostly a worm guy, jig guy. I don't fish many spinner baits or crank baits out here because I tend to get them caught in the trees a lot and spend a lot of time unhanging them. But
Tell us how you give us your thoughts about transitioning to to kayak fishing versus another type of fishing.
Well, originally I'm from eastern Arkansas, so I'm used to fishing out of bass boats and john boats, and I'm used to muddy water. So I've done a lot of transitioning over the years. I've transitioned to fishing clear water and running rivers, and moved up here. We were fishing out of canoes pretty regularly. I got this kayak a couple years ago and it's in my blood. You can't beat it. I don't think I'll ever charge another battery for a trolling motor. That's what I like to do. So.
Outdoor guide Chris Robertson also joined us to fly fish for smallmouth bass.
I started out fly fishing on the rivers for trout, and came out here a little bit and fished with some flies, and well, talked to some of the guys that were fishing the jig baits and stuff with just a regular fishing pole, and ended up switching to a different type of fly that's a popper that sits on top of the water. So this time of year, a lot of the bass, the small, the largemouth bass, are actually going to hit on top of the water. So we fish this with the fly rod, and they'll come up and get it. And there's a lot of excitement in it, because when you can actually see the fish hit on the fly, and at that point you just jerk back and fight with them and get them in.
You seem to have no problem maneuvering that fly rod in a kayak.
I've stuck it in trees many times, broke 2 poles, and those lessons those financial lessons will teach you to work a little bit better. But I've been out here fishing for on the Mulberry for about the last 4 or 5 years. There's a couple locals that do fish, and we do have a number of people fish on the river out of there, and it's not really uncommon to pull out a 12-15 inch bass.
Unfortunately, we don't exactly have one of those at the moment to pull out for you.
The river offers something for everybody year-round. You can paddle. Most folks come in the spring when we have more water, but you can paddle in the summer. There's flat water, lots of pools with standing water, great for fishing and swimming. In the wintertime, if you have proper equipment and training, you can stay warm and paddle the whitewater. If we get a nice snowstorm, it's beautiful being on the river in the snow. Of course, there's all kinds of activities in the Mulberry River Valley. There's great rock climbing and bouldering. There's really good mountain biking. You've got camping, backpacking on the Ozark Highlands Trail, which is just up on the ridge right behind us. And starting to see more aviation activity in the valley as well.
Now, Zen Bolden, who's joined us on several previous episodes, is an outdoor expert, and he wanted to demonstrate for us what is called an Arkansas stupid.
Ready?
It's called an Arkansas stupid for good reason. Bolden is a professional, and catapulting oneself off a bluff in a kayak should not be attempted by even the most experienced kayakers. If you've ever floated the Mulberry, then you're probably familiar with the cairns, or carefully balanced stacks of stones along the riverbank. Well, Courtney insisted that I contribute to one of the stacks. Ah! Oh no. Now I'm in trouble.
You sure are.
Yeah, this was not there.
Yes, it was.
No, it wasn't.
I'm actually an outdoor recreation major at the U of A, and so we literally sat down and looked at a map together, my husband and I, and determined that this was the area that we wanted to locate ourselves. So we looked respectively the Mulberry, the Kings River, the Buffalo, and the hiking trails, and this was our little piece of heaven.
So why do you enjoy the Mulberry? For obvious reasons.
Right. Well, the rivers out here all have their own unique features, but for me, the Mulberry, it has more action than the other rivers. The scenery is equal to like the Buffalo River. but it has more rapids and things that I enjoy the excitement of the river.
At the end of our float at the Redding Recreation Area and Campsite, Zen Bolden just had to do it again with another Arkansas Stupid. So don't do that at home, or this. I can't believe that happened.
I don't guess they float, do they? Well, we've run across quite a few unusual and unique mountain bike trail names in past years. We'll add one more, Earthquake Ridge Trail north of Mena. A lot of interesting facts about this one, so let's check it out.
Teaming up with members of the Ouachita Cycling Club, we started out on the trail from the Forest Service Visitor Information Station 2 miles north of Mena. The Earthquake Ridge Trail parallels the Talimena Scenic Byway on Rich Mountain.
The Earthquake Ridge Trail got its name from a unique rock formation that is about a mile up the highway to the north of us. And the Earthquake Ridge Trail is made up of a series of loops. And it offers a variety of skill levels. So for the more experienced rider that's looking for a challenge, he or she would want to ride the Earthquake Ridge Loop, or the Southern Loop, or the Fern Loop.
And looking at the map, the Earthquake Ridge Loop itself is 2.7 miles.
Yes, that's correct, yes.
But if they were to take all the loops put together, then it'd be, I guess, over 6 miles or something like that.
It'd be approximately close to 7 miles.
Although this is a little bit off, just a little ways off for the trail, it's really worthwhile coming to check it out. There's this crevice and 2 or 3 others.
It goes just on up the hill?
Yeah, you just follow it on up the hill, and you know, it's pretty easy walking. It's not overgrown or anything. But you know, probably 15, 18 years ago, we were climbing these rocks, me and a buddy, but this and another structure further up, I'm presuming it's all part of the Earthquake Ridge. And you know, it's just these crevices or cliffside up a little bit further. And thus the Earthquake Ridge Trails.
We have weekly rides here on the trail, and I find that when I first start riding the course in the spring that it's very difficult and I end up pushing my bike a lot. But as the spring and summer goes on, I get a lot better at doing some of the rocks and the roots and the switchbacks. So, I mean, it's very challenging, and if you can ride this course, you can probably ride any course in Arkansas.
People that ride it can enjoy, you know, a variety of wildlife and animals and wildlife or plant species, and also on the southern loop in the springtime, people can enjoy the beautiful dogwood blooms. And of course, in the autumn, all the fall color. Yeah, that's correct. Yes, and that's when we get our most use on the trails is in October.
It was in 1902 when the Iron Horse began rolling through St. Joe. The St. Joe Train Depot was a stop on the Missouri and North Arkansas Railway running south of Joplin to Helena. This 365-mile connector rail line was a lifeline to the smaller rural communities because it enabled to export timber, minerals, and local goods in exchange for supplies and products from around the country and beyond. So the M&NA Railway played an important role in the development of the culture and economy of the region. After 44 years, though, the railway closed for regular service in 1946. And since that time, the St. Joe Depot served the community as a church, temporary classrooms for the local school, and a feed store before becoming vacant and falling in disrepair. It wasn't until 2011 when the town received a grant from the Arkansas Rural Community Grant Program and with locally matched funds that the depot was finally restored to its original 1902 state. Even the telegraph wires were restored.
We restored the telegraph wires because they were synonymous with the railroad, like crust is to a pie. so it was a communication system for the outside world, really. This railroad it put us in touch with literally the rest of the world, because before that we were just a rural hill folks. And it did that for all these towns as you came through here. It put us all the way to the Arkansas River at Helena and so on. And we shipped ore out of here, lead and zinc. The siding, the rail where you park box cars and cars for hauling ore and the like, they would be parked here for loading and unloading. And over just across the highway there was a area there where now the school has come down to it. But it was a yard where they shipped railroad ties and barrel staves, all the timber industry.
John Henley, who happens to be the mayor of St. Joe, shared with us some of the so-called fun they had as kids with passing trains.
The train was coming and we went out, dropped down between the ties and get on this heavy timber, let the train go by over us. And you would think those big timbers were made out of sponge. When the engine came over, they'd compress 2 or 3 inches. And the noise would be so great, of course, you couldn't hear anything other than noise. And then as a lighter car came through, or an empty car came through, while the timber leveled off again. And we did that 2 times, and our parents found out, and they got really after us because these trains would regularly stop and let off steam for some reason. If we'd have been under there and they let off steam, it'd have killed us. So that ended those kind of stories.
There's also a Civil War marker in front of the depot commemorating the January 22, 1864 skirmish at nearby Tomahawk Creek.
Well, I guess after you get the tracks relayed here, all you need then is the steam locomotive.
That's right. then we need money, because they're available if we have the money to get one and pay the transportation to get it here. Because as far as I know, so far we've inquired on these things, and what we find is that most of them want at least for the equipment what it would bring for scrap at the scrapyard. And that can add up in a hurry on a big engine or the like of that. So we're looking forward to the day when we can do some things like that.
So the next time you're driving along Highway 65 and passing through St. Joe, stop in and spend a little time at the historic Railroad Depot and Museum. And for more on this destination, plus many of our others, or to order a copy of an episode, visit our website at aetn.org/exploringarkansas. And don't forget to like us on our Facebook fan page. And we'll see you again the next time for another exciting adventure on Exploring Arkansas. Arkansas Grand Canyon.